of times you can get the case reduced from a DUI to something that's going to have a lot less consequences.
Okay. And this may be very hard to say, but I mean, what level of success have you had in reducing some of the punishments for DUI, I guess percentage wise, with clients?
Well, it's hard to give a percentage, but most cases you're going to have something good to argue, and you're going to be able to convince the prosecutor to give some type of reduction in either the sentence or the type of charge. There's some cases you get where you really don't have any good defense, and the person gave the police officer a lot of evidence against them, and took the breath test or took the blood test, and had a high blood alcohol content, or had illegal drugs in their system. That's sometimes there's just cases that are hard to defend and hard to get any type of reduction. But
Hmm.
I'd say in terms of the cases where the person does have a good legal defense, we're highly successful in getting the consequences of the charge reduced, if not dismissed.
Okay. And this leads into, what do you believe are the pros and cons of hiring a private law firm like you versus a public defender or just defending yourself in a DUI?
Well, I think that when you go out and hire a private attorney, one, you get to choose someone that you feel comfortable with, and two, you're going to get someone who who's dedicated to your case and is going to do everything they can to represent you and keep you informed of what's going on and do the right investigation for your case. In terms of public defenders, there are some very good public defenders out there. If you're lucky enough to get one of those people, you might be just as good off with that public defender as you are with a private attorney. But in reality, there's a lot of public defenders that are brand new attorneys who are doing that just to get experience, and they don't have the experience that other attorneys have, and at the same time, they're very overworked, so they don't have the time to dedicate to your case.
Hmm.
When we take a case on, we do a full investigation. We immediately request the police report. We request any video that there is. We request the 911 call or CAD report regarding the case. We request the officers post records to see what type of training they have. If it's a breath test case, we request the records regarding the Intoxilizer 5000 to see if it's had any problems, to see if it was calibrated correctly.
Huh.
If it's a drug test, we take the time to call the lab and discuss the results with the person who did the test. So when you have a private attorney, you're going to get. I mean, if you have a good attorney that does the right investigation, you're going to get everything done properly and quickly. I would never recommend representing yourself on one of these cases. The law is just too complex. There's a lot of science behind DUI law. If you there's most of these cases are aggressively prosecuted,
Okay.
and you're not going to get offered a reduction if you don't have an attorney. And if you're going to try and win a motion or a trial, you need to know, one, the science behind DUI law, and two, you need to know DUI law, and then three, you need to know Georgia criminal procedure and evidence laws.
Right.
Which, if you're not trained in all of those things, it's going to be very tough to do a good job properly defending yourself.
Yeah, now I understand too. I mean, you look under every stone, you request records of this, that, and the other. I mean, you really do a full court press on anywhere you could find evidence to challenge. So now I understand personally why it's better to hire a lawyer. So, what insights have you learned into people's behavior and their reaction to being arrested for DUI? What human insights have you gained into the whole process?
Well, I think, first of all, most people, if they haven't received advice from a DUI attorney in the past, they cooperate with everything the law enforcement asks them to do. They do all the field sobriety tests. They do the breath test. A lot of people think that they're going to be able to talk their way out of the DUI charge, and most of them are unsuccessful. I think that they've had one or two drinks, and then the officer's gonna, take them at their word and stop their investigation.
Mm.
But everyone reacts differently to being stopped by the officers. I mean, you certainly get some cases where the people refuse to say anything to the law enforcement officer, and so there's a wide variety of reactions that people have.
And it sounds like from what you said earlier, the less you tell them, the better, because they're not your friend, and everything you say they're going to use as evidence, I guess.
Yeah, that's definitely true. I mean, the more anything you give them is going to be evidence against you.
Okay. And you may have answered this already, but is there a particular story you hear from your clients over and over and over, like, I only had 2 beers, or the police did this, or...
Well, yeah, I mean, it's pretty standard that you hear, 2 or 3 drinks. That, a lot of these people are pulled over for failure to maintain lane, and they insist that they did not fail to maintain their lane. And unfortunately, a lot of these cases, there's no video, and there's no way to refute the officer saying that the person did fail to maintain the lane. Although a lot of the officers in this area that are doing DUI cases do have video in their vehicles, so you do get the opportunity to see what was going on. Most of the time, the people did fail to maintain their lane at least once. I actually think that if you're driving down the road between midnight and 2 a.m. or 3 a.m., there's light traffic. There's probably not a car next to you. Most people are going to fail to maintain their lane at one point or another, whether they're intoxicated or not, just because you're not worried about crossing that line. And,
Right.
and just a very small touching of the center line or going over the center line could be enough to get an officer to pull you over.
Okay. So I guess you answered another question. Is there any physical circumstance, where people are or what time of day or anything that tends to make them get arrested for DUI more? And I guess the answer would be, if you're out driving between midnight and 3 a.m., you're more likely to have a problem.
Yeah, I mean, most of these DUI cases they occur at night.
Okay.
So most of them involve someone's gone out, whether to a friend's house or to a party or to a restaurant or to a bar, and they've had a few drinks and they're driving home. The local DUI task force officers, they work a shift. Generally, it's 10 p.m. to 6 a.m. or 8 p.m. to 4 a.m. That's the type of shift where they're working, because that's when they expect most of the DUI arrests to occur. Now, there are all sorts of cases. I mean, you get people that are completely intoxicated in the middle of the day, and then you get some people that go to sleep after a night of heavy drinking and get pulled over in the morning, and they still have a pretty high blood alcohol content.
So do you feel the current DUI punishments are too harsh, or are they too lax, and why?
Well, that's a loaded question.
It's true.
I think it's a difficult question to answer. I think that for most people that receive a first DUI arrest, they're going to think that the punishment is pretty harsh. By the time you get arrested, pay an attorney, go to court, have to go back to jail to finish out your jail sentence, have to pay court costs, do DUI school, do community service, do a drug and alcohol evaluation and treatment, and face the driver's license suspension. You've gone through a lot of punishment, and you've expended a lot of money and dealt with a lot of stress, and had to spend a lot of time dealing with it. So it can be a harsh punishment for a first DUI. But with that being said, we see so many second and third and fourth DUI arrests that obviously that punishment wasn't enough, because it didn't stop people from continuing to go out driving while intoxicated. So on a second DUI, and of course the punishment you're going to get varies greatly depending on which court your case is in. But on a second DUI in this general area, you're often looking at somewhere between 3 and 30 days jail, and that's if you're going to resolve the case prior to a trial. If you have a trial and lose, there are some judges that will give you 60 or 90 days jail.
Wow.
Just on a second DUI.
Okay. So what do you see as the future of DUI in terms of the number of offenders and the punishment levels?
Well, I only see the punishments going up. There's a huge stigma against DUI out there in society, and they still make so many DUI arrests. So I don't see any legislature ever reducing the punishments for DUIs. Just in Georgia a few years ago, they amended the DUI law, and now if you get a fourth one within 10 years, of course all four have to be after that law was enacted, but if you get a fourth one in 10 years, it's going to be a felony. So you can risk becoming a convicted felon just based on DUI cases. But yeah, I don't see the punishments ever getting less severe. Judges are under pressure to make sure that people are properly punished so that they curb their behavior in the future, and the legislature doesn't want to have to answer to the people in the press as to why they're making DUI laws less strict.
Okay. So what would you say makes your firm unique in providing DUI defense, and what personal statement do you want to make to everyone that's going to be watching this video?
Well, it's hard to say, why we're unique, but on every case that we handle, we strive to get the best result possible for the client. I've spent years, learning law and doing training and getting myself educated in evidence law and DUI law and the procedure, and looking for every way possible to attack these cases and defend these cases as best as possible. And as I mentioned earlier, we do a very thorough investigation. From the minute we get hired, we're out there requesting records. We're doing open records requests and filing motions and getting everything we can to see if there's any way possible to defend the case. And I feel like we do a very good job communicating with our clients. We email everything that comes in to the clients that day, and I'm always open to meet with the clients or talk to them by phone whenever they need to. So we give a very full defense, and we always try and get the best result we possibly can on every case.
Okay. Well, thanks for taking the time to do the interview. I appreciate it.
You're welcome, Richard. I enjoyed it. Thanks for interviewing me.